Hi, I'm Kaelyn Asher, and welcome to this month's Yoga Business Live workshop. Every month, Chris King and I sit down and we bring you yoga business topics that you guys want to learn about because we really want to empower the yoga community to take charge of their businesses and create a business and life that they really, really love and are proud of. So this month, Chris and I are tackling a topic that I hear again and again from the yoga community, and we're going to talk about how you can stay on track and hold yourself accountable to your yoga business goals. I work with yoga teachers all the time, and they have these amazing ideas for their yoga business, and they get so excited about them, and they start, moving forward and working on them, only to slowly fall away and not make those things happen that they were really hoping to make happen. So we're going to give you some really actionable tips and strategies to help you stay on track and really hold yourself accountable so you create a yoga business practice. Just like your yoga practice, you need to stick with it. So I'm going to kick it over to Chris so he can say hi to you guys, and we'll get started.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chris King, founder of the Yoga Business Revolution, and I'm really excited about this topic. This is a huge thing for entrepreneurs, and especially entrepreneurs that are in this conscious business yoga type place, because we have some really specific challenges that we go through that are a lot different from what everyone else faces in the business world. So this is great.
Cool. So I think we'll dive right into it. I mean, we all have goals that we're working towards. So whether you're pursuing yoga business goals or just personal goals for yourself, the structure that we're going to provide you with is really going to help you move forward in your goals and be consistent in your action. And that's really the key. You're probably going to hear us say it a lot on today's workshop, is that consistency is really the key here. It's not to do things perfectly, it's not to get it right every time, but just to be consistent in your effort, and again, that you're establishing that practice for yourself. So the first tip that I want to share, it's something that I use and I know I need it for myself, is to set a schedule. Especially if you're new in your yoga business and you're just kind of, doing things when you have time, maybe you only have a couple hours a week to devote to your yoga business, and you sit down and then in that moment you're like, what am I going to work on? I have all these business tasks to take care of. Setting a schedule, I like to do it personally the week before. I sit down on my Friday afternoon when the work week kind of quiets down, and I look out over my next week, my next Monday through Friday, and I see all the little pockets of time I have available. And then I allocate specific tasks that I want to accomplish in those time frames so that I know exactly what I'm going to be working on. And setting a schedule is something that is, again, it's a practice, but when you do it, you begin to become so much more efficient and effective with your time that you can get a lot more accomplished, which is really, it's very satisfying, and it makes so much more sense because you're going to be getting a lot more done in the amount of time you have, especially if it's a limited amount of time.
Yeah, Kaelyn, this is so important. As we both know, when you become an entrepreneur, a lot of times people want to rebel against structures and disciplines and systems and accountabilities and schedules. We say, oh, I want to be my own boss. I don't want someone telling me what to do. I'm going to do it my own way. I'll work at night if I want to, or maybe I'll work at 5 in the morning. I'll just work whenever the heck I want. And we start to discover that that doesn't really work. And actually, when we work for people in a common structure of like a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type of format, which people actually rebel against, that can actually be very grounding for us and can help us stay on track more than anything. When we work for somebody, those structures and those schedules are imposed on us, and they're actually good in a way. So, when we start to get serious about being business owners and we really want to accomplish big goals and get a lot of stuff done, and like I said, feel grounded at the same time, what Kaelyn's saying of these ideas of bringing in schedules become really important. And, I know in my personal life, my life starts to look like a standard corporate structure. Like my business partner and I, we sit down every day at 9:30 Monday through Friday, and do our work, and no matter what's happening. And at first, I kind of rebel against it, but then I say, wow, this actually feels good, and it creates that structure.
Yeah, and I think that brings up a good point, is that resistance that we often encounter when we go to sit down and adhere to our schedule, when we've carved out that time and we sit down and we feel like, oh, I feel like I should want to work. Now, the thing is just because you've set aside the time to get the work done doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to want to work in that moment. And the only tip I can give is just to work through it. I read this great book called The War of Art. It's by Stephen Pressfield, and the entire book is about this battle, this inner battle that we have with resistance. And it really can keep us from accomplishing big goals. There's a quote in the book, something along the lines of that the wannabe composer doesn't feel like a failure because he's always going to be working on his big symphony tomorrow. That's the resistance piece. We're always like, oh, I can work on that tomorrow. But when you give into it, you're doing yourself a disservice. And when you decide to sit down and do the work, even when you're feeling that resistance, even when you don't really want to, that's the moment when you know you've really turned pro. And that's actually another Stephen Pressfield book. I love both of them. I think you've read them too, Chris, is that this concept of working through that resistance, of committing yourself to the task at hand and showing up, whether you're feeling super inspired and creative or you feel like you're just going through the motions. But again, it's putting in place that habit of showing up for yourself and for your business.
Yeah, that's great. You're right. I think you recommended that book to me.
Yeah, it's a good read.
Yeah, and it totally made a huge difference in my life. Just that idea of sitting down and doing the work every day. You say you're going to do it, no matter what. I mean, and I watch that play out in my life all the time. There'll be some mornings where I just feel totally crazy. I feel nuts. I feel like I'm questioning everything. I feel like I'm off track. I'm wondering if this is even right. And, I'm doing my whole process, and I feel all that resistance. But then if I can just sit down and get to work for 5 or 10 minutes, all of a sudden I'm in it, and all of that craziness just, it's like, poof, disappears. So yeah, it's a really powerful practice.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a good counterpoint to this topic that we're talking about right now is, we're talking about buckling it down, doing the work, no matter what, showing up, making it a practice. But there is something to be said for giving yourself breaks and structuring in those breaks. Because without that little mental reprieve and that energy reprieve to let yourself kind of regenerate and get some creativity back, you might start wearing yourself thin, especially if you're teaching a ton of yoga classes, you're trying to build a yoga business, if you have family obligations or social obligations, your schedule is likely very packed. So this is a tip that actually comes from our friend Rachel Cook. She's the Yogipreneur, and I was talking to her about, I felt like I was just nonstop from the time I woke up in the morning until I went to bed at night, and she suggested this system that I call the 45-15 system. And what this means is that you set your alarm, your phone time or something, for 45 minutes, and for those 45 minutes, you buckle down, you do the work, you combat the resistance if it's there, you get into the flow, you just work, work, work. But then, after those 45 minutes, you give yourself 15 minutes to step away, to maybe do some yoga poses, to take your eyes off your computer screen if you've been sitting for a while, to just get up and move around. If you're at home and working from home, maybe throw in a load of laundry. Just remove yourself from that workspace so that you can give yourself a mental and a physical breath and some time. And so if you find that you're one of those people that tends to go really hard and really long and then you're totally burnt out, having some kind of give and take between the work time and then a little bit of break time might be exactly what you need to help you to be more consistent over the long haul so you don't burn yourself out.
Yeah, this is a really good topic, and I love what you're saying in that we have to be just as disciplined and focused with our scheduling when it comes to breaks.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to focus and discipline myself on the work, and I'm going to work for this amount of time, but you've got to be just as focused and structured and consistent with yourself in taking these breaks.
Yeah.
And you know what I like to do is schedule in daily breaks, weekly breaks, and monthly breaks. And I think that is so powerful. You know, every single day, like Kaelyn's saying, you know, factor in these breaks in your actual work time, but also take a good 30 minutes or an hour and, you know, take a nap.
Yeah.
I think that is so powerful. You know, I'll put my legs up against the wall and do some pranayama and just totally zone out for a while, and that totally recharges me. Same thing, and you know, we're in this position of teaching and helping people. I mean, we're very intimately connected with our clients and students and audience, and that can wear on you, and you're really giving a lot out. So you need time every week to recharge. I like to take a day on a Sunday and turn everything off and go spend time in the woods and, you know, try and not even talk very much to fill myself back up. So yeah, a lot of times when we think of accomplishing goals and getting stuff done, we think of work, but man, it's the polarity, it's the opposite end that's just as important.
Yeah, totally. Finding that work-life balance, that can be a real challenge, especially for entrepreneurs, because so many of us do work from home. So it's really easy during that quote-unquote break time to suddenly find yourself checking your email on your phone. It's like, oh, I was supposed to give myself these 10, 20, 30 minutes of not doing work, and yet it can creep in. So like you're saying, being structured and really giving yourself that space to step away from the work is just as important as sitting down and doing the work. And it'll make you that much more invigorated and excited to do the work when it's not constantly seeping into all the other areas of your life.
Right, you know, and at the end of the day, if you burn out, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You're screwed, you know, and it doesn't matter how much work you got done in that 6 months that you burned out in. If it takes you out of the game for the next 6 months, well, who cares? It's useless, you know. So think long term. Think of a long-term strategy that's going to keep you in it so you can do what you want to do in the world.
Yeah, very cool. So I have before we have an actual like action program for you guys to help you structure out your goals and hold yourself accountable to them. But something else I just want to throw out there is kind of a fun challenge for yourself is to look, if you're someone who keeps lists or any kind of, you know, written down ideas about what you think you should be doing in your business and things you're doing month to month, week to week, I encourage you to take a look at that. And if there's been these items that have been kind of sitting on your list, getting transferred from one list to the other, and they just aren't getting accomplished, but they keep just living there and occupying some mental space for you, really evaluate if they are a priority for you. Maybe there's something that you think you should be doing in your business or should be doing in your life that you really are not interested in doing. And remember, if in your business, it's about you. You're crafting this business to reflect your passions, your interests, and you can make it exactly what you want it. So if there's some items on that list that once you really look at them, you realize they're not a priority, cross them off. And not cross them off and then add them back next week, but cross them off permanently and just notice what that feels like. It's so empowering. I've done this. It's not something I do often enough, probably, but when I do this and I take that item off, it's like I feel a physical sigh of relief throughout my entire body, like a weight has been lifted. It feels so, so good. So I encourage you that if you are someone who has these little stragglers on their list that keep just riding along from list to list, week to week, look at them and really ask yourself if there's something that really need to happen for you or your business. And if they are, is it something that someone else could handle? Is there someone you could delegate to? Because that's another common problem. We take too much on our plates and try to do everything ourselves.
Yeah, you know, we live in this world of constant demand. There's no filter on the emails that come into our inbox. There's no filter on how many to-dos you can type into your notepad on your computer. And like Kaelyn's saying, you got to prioritize, right? And I tell people that own a business, a service-based business, any business, you've got to be focused on getting new clients and selling your products first, right? And developing your business, working on your business. And it's so easy to get sucked up in all these little tasks, and I meet people all the time. I work with clients that are doing all these management tasks, and they're not spending any time networking, creating their flyers, doing the things that actually get new business coming in. And, sometimes, like Kaelyn's saying, there's things that don't get done. And that's okay, because there's so much to do. You've got to focus on what's most important first.
Yeah, exactly. So, Chris, do you have any more tips or advice you want to share before we hand out their action steps for this month?
Oh, I just want to teach my mantra that I use for this type of stuff. I love this, and myself being a very strongly freedom-seeking individual, I know a lot of entrepreneurs are in that space, and a lot of people in our yoga community, we really want freedom, and we rebel against these structures and these disciplines because we think that it's going to take our freedom away. So I made this cool little mantra to feel good about that process, and it's structure and discipline will set me free.
I really like that.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And the idea is, we create this container of structure in our lives, and because of that structure, it can keep us focused and keep us on track so that we can truly expand and experience real freedom, because we're moving toward where we want to go. So structure and discipline will set me free. I love it. That's
great. And also, just being a community of yogis, that could be a mantra for your mat too, that the structure and discipline that you put into your actual physical practice, that's when you experience the most freedom, when you're well aligned and really working with the body. Then you have that moment where, like that aha moment in a pose, where it just feels totally free. So I think that's really cool that you also have applied that to your business.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, cool. So if you haven't already, grab a pen and paper or open up a Word doc or a Google Doc, something that you can write these steps down in. And remember, the playback will be available for you guys for the next month up on the same page, the same link. So if you don't have something handy, if you're watching it on your phone or listening to it, just be cool with it. You can go back. You can get these steps later. But for the next month, you have some time with this. But I want to give you the system I use to structure out my year plan, and obviously things change as the year progresses, but this will give you an overarching sense of what needs to be accomplished every month, every week, and then you can dial it back to even each day. So step number 1 is to take some time, and really take some time here. Give yourself a day, a half day, a number of hours where you can really, really think about all the big goals, the big things that you want to accomplish in your business and your life over the next 12 months. So no filter here. Just write down everything. Anything that comes to mind that sounds like an amazing, inspiring idea, anything that pops in, no matter how silly or small, just write it down and compile this nice long list of all these yoga business goals that you have for yourself. Now, step 2 is to analyze the list and begin to cross off anything that's not feasible, that doesn't sound like fun, that maybe isn't the right fit for your yoga business at this time, maybe it would cost too much money, maybe it would need a lot of extra support that you don't currently have. So cross off the items that don't make sense. So you're really culling down to just those top essential priorities for the next 12 months. Now, once you have that, step number 3 is to take each one of those big goals and break it down even further. Think about all the little steps that need to go in place to accomplish them. For example, if you want to host some kind of yoga workshop, you're going to need to create not only the content for the workshop, but the marketing materials, and think about how you're going to advertise it to the yoga community and dial it back. So all the little pieces that need to go into play to make those bigger goals happen. And then once you have that, so your big goals and then all the little goals under them, you're going to look at your calendar and start plotting them. So if you want to have your yoga workshop in September, you think about what marketing you might need to do in August and the content creation that you need to start doing in maybe the end of July. So you start plotting your goals out so that you have time to accomplish and move towards those larger goals. And finally, and this is what I was saying at the very beginning of today's workshop, Now, when you sit down at the end of your week, maybe on Thursday or Friday, when you're planning out your next Monday through Friday, you can look at your year plan, at your monthly plan, and then devise a weekly plan that's going to carry you closer to all of those goals that you've put in place. So I know that probably sounds a little overwhelming. I threw that out, at you in just a matter of minutes. But if you give yourself a day to do this work, to follow through those 5 steps that I just outlined, you're going to realize that you really have a beautiful structure in place for your entire year of yoga business plans. And obviously, give yourself permission to change, to shift directions. There's going to be opportunities that come up. There's going to be opportunities that don't pan out, and that's totally fine. But having this structure is something that helps you stay accountable and consistent because you're not constantly reinventing the wheel and trying to figure out what to do. You can go and look back at your plan and then figure out what you need to be doing on a day-to-day basis from there.
And then you'll be free.
And then you'll be free because the structure and discipline will set you free.
And make sure to stay present too. It's really easy to get future oriented and upset and angry because you don't have these goals that you're working towards
Gratitude for where you are right now. That's a big.
Yeah, and when these things look overwhelming and big, it's the same thing. Just remember, you only have to do one at a time.
Yeah.
You got to do one step at a time.
Yeah, and you set your schedule. I mean, that when we're feeling totally overwhelmed and overloaded as entrepreneurs, we have to remember we've chosen those tasks that are on our plate, whether or not they're the right fit for us or the right priorities. We've chosen to be working on them and focusing our energy on them. So we can always reevaluate, we can always reassess, and choose to move forward in a different way.
Awesome.
Cool. All right, so I think that brings us to the end of today's teaching. Just a reminder, for more yoga business and marketing advice, right under this video there are links to sign up for Chris's list and my list, and we send out great free advice to you guys to keep you updated with all pertinent stuff you guys want to know. And also there's a link to join the members-only Facebook group. It's just for the Yoga Business Live community. There's lots of interesting discussions there. We post little special freebies and things like that just for the yoga community there. And if you guys have questions that you want to hear our answer to on future Yoga Business Live workshops, post them there. Send them to us via email. We want to know what you guys want to hear about so we can talk about it.
Right on. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for being here. This has been tons of fun. We love making these shows for you. Yeah, we'll see you on Facebook. See you on the email list. See you next month.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Get busy with those action steps.
Bye.